Hashem, today's daf yomi is Avodah Zarah daf Chavav, Avodah Zarah 26. Today's daf is dedicated for a shmer for the Chayalim, Atzal, for the Shvuyim, and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. Where it tells us in the bottom of Chav Hey Amud Beis, 7 lines from the bottom, that the Gemara is talking about how we have to be careful when we travel with idolaters, that we're worried they're going to kill us. So therefore, don't tell them our plans exactly. Tell them we're going farther than we're actually going, so that we could get off the road in the middle before they're able to attack us. So Ma'aseh b'Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, there was once an incident with the students of Rabbi Akiva. And you know that Rabbi Akiva was always in trouble with the authorities, and they eventually killed him for his studying Torah. So therefore, they were very wary of the idolaters. There's once a student of Rabbi Akiva. But the interesting thing is, Rashi says that this story, they wasn't idolaters. It was Jews who were posing the threat. And so therefore, we're saying if this is how you have to deal with Jews, how much more so with idolaters? So they were on their way to Chaziv, Paguba and Listim. So bandits met them, and Rashi says these were Jewish bandits. And Amru lahen la'ana tenolchem, where are you going? Amru lahen la'ako, we're going to Akko. Kibin shigil of Ziv, but once they reached to Ziv, which is before Akko, Pirusha, they separated. Amru lahen, and the bandits said, Talmidei miatem, who's your teacher? Amru lahen Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. We're students of Rabbi Akiva. Amru lahen, they responded, Ashrei Rabbi Akiva v'Talmidav. How fortunate is Rabbi Akiva and his students? So Paga behen Adam Ra be'olam, that they're so fortunate because they're able to evade the robbers. And this is all ironic because Rabbi Akiva wasn't captured and thrown into prison. So that's the irony within the story. Rav Menashe, a second story. Rav Menashe Azil Abei Turtah. When Menashe was on his way to Beit Turtah, it's a place, Rashi says, on top of Chavav Aleph. Excuse me. Pagu Ganave. So the robbers met him, and this time these were idolater robbers. Amrle La'an Ta'azlas. Where are you going? Amrle Pumpadisa. He said, I'm going to Pumpadisa. Kimato Beit Turtah. But when they got to Beit Turtah, which is before Pumpadisa, Parish, or Menashe peeled off. So Amrle, they said to him, it must be Talmida de Yehuda Ramah. They didn't ask him. In the previous case, they asked, who's your teacher? Here, they say, we know you must be the student of Yehuda, the trickster. Amrle, so Menashe said, Yaditalu, do you know him? Ye Rabba, he said, this is the way you talk about my Rebbe? And he made a curse upon these people that they should be excommunicated. So, because he talked disrespectfully about Rabbi Yehuda. Hanu, Avdu Genifte Esran Vitartin Shanin Vlo Itzlichu. These robbers went, and for 22 years, they tried to be robbers, but they were unsuccessful. For 22 years, they tried to be robbers. They didn't succeed. Kivan Dechazu, once they saw that it was because they were excommunicated, also Kulu Tavu Shari Shamtayu, the Baal says. They came to remove their excommunication. They came to Rav Menashe and asked him to remove it. Vavabu Chad Grin, no, there was one weaver, also was Sharuya. He didn't come. So Achle Aryeh, a lion ate him, and Hainu Damriinchi, this is what people say, Grinna Delotiv Da'ayazan. Shata Batzir Mishani. If there's a weaver who doesn't humble himself, he's going to lose a year from his life. And Tachazima Ben God Vebavo in there. So come and see the distinction between the robbers of Babylon and the bandits of Israel. Because the bandits of Israel in the first story, they respected the rabbi. In the second story, the robbers of Babylon, they didn't respect the rabbi. And Rashi says that even though the bandits of Eretz Yisrael were robbers, they still had respect for the Rabbanos. And that teaches us the praise of Eretz Yisrael, that the robbers of Eretz Yisrael still respect the Torah. the one of the points is that these robbers in Babylon, they kept trying for 22 years to become good at being a robber, but they weren't successful. They kept trying and trying and trying. Reb Zusha said that there are 7 things we can learn from a thief. You can learn he does a lot of different things, but the 7th one he lists is that the robber never gives up. Even if he tries, he doesn't succeed. He keeps trying again and again and again. And that's what we can learn in the service of Hashem. Even if we don't succeed the first time, we have to keep trying, trying, and trying. Says the Mishnah, Ba'as Yisrael tiyaled es ha'ovedes kochavim mimnei shemialedes ben la'avodes kochavim. Says the Mishnah, a Jewish girl should not be a midwife for idolater. Mimnei shemialedes ben la'avodes kochavim. In fact, all she's doing is she's creating another idolater in the world. Avodes kochavim mialedes ba'as Yisrael. An idolater is allowed to be But an idolater is allowed to be help give birth to the Jewish girl, because we'll see what the concern might have been. A Jewish girl is not a nurse an idolater, his baby. But the idolater can nurse the Jewish woman's baby if it's in the house of the Jewish woman. Tan Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Bas Yisrael, a Jewish girl cannot give birth to an idolater. A Jewish girl cannot give birth to an idolater, cannot help the idolater give birth, because she's just creating another baby for idolatry. But an idolater cannot help a Jewish girl give birth, because we're not allowed to have an idolater serve as the midwife, because we suspect that they'll kill the Jewish baby. That's the position of Rebbe Meir. The Chachamim are more lenient. They say, or maybe more strict in your perspective, they say idolater can serve as a midwife for a Jewish baby at a time when at a time when there's another person standing there protecting the situation. But not when it's just the two of them. There's Gemara's right here, Jeff. They're on the table already. So Boker Tov. So Rav Meir says that you right here's a Gemara. And there are two, and there are two, and there are two. So Gemara says again, Rav Meir says that you can serve. That Rav Meir says that idolater is not allowed to be a midwife for a Jew, but the Chacham said that you can do it if there's another person to make sure she doesn't harm the baby. Rav Meir Omer Afil Acheres Omdos Agava Namilo. We're in the middle of 26a. Rav Meir says even if others are standing next to her, you still can't do it. Why? The Zimnin Dimanchole Yada Aputa of the Katzale. V'lomis Chizi. Because sometimes what's going to happen is that the idolater will stick her hand on the head of the baby and kill the baby, and nobody's paying attention. And Rahman al-Islam, the baby will die. There's once a woman, that there were two idolatrous women. They were in a tiff. And Boker Tov. So there was two idolatrous women. They were in a tiff. And we're in the middle of 26a. And one of them said to the other, she gave her the biggest insult she felt she could give her. And she said to her, Molda Yudaisa, Bas Molda Yudaisa, you're a Jewish woman who was born from a Jewish woman. And now that was the insult, you Jew. And Amrullah, and the other one responded, Nefishin Bishasa, Dahi Isisa, the Kamashfilna Minayo Dama, Ki Ufya Dinara. And so the response was, so many bad things should come upon you, like the number of babies, Jewish babies that I killed and caused their blood to run. Like basically that I caused them to run like the rapids that are on top of a river. And so therefore So that's why Rameir says, forget it. Even if there's somebody standing there, you can't trust it. And the Rabbanan said, no. Wohi, b'milsa ba'alma hudu kimte. Rabbanan say, no, it's not a concern. They said, basically, that if there's people standing there, it's not a concern. And that what she said was in general, but not when somebody's standing there. It's not a threat. You had a question, Jeff?
The translation was a midwife of Jewess's daughter.
Okay, fine. So yeah, okay. Okay, so I got it wrong. Basically, I said Jewish woman. She called her Jew. She didn't call her Jew. She called her, according to this translation, it said the midwife of a Jew. It says Molda Yudaisa. So let me just go back and see how they translate it here in the Sifta. Just they say, yeah, that exactly like Jeff said. Shkoyach. Okay, so the Gemara says Ba'as Yisrael Tanik. So it says a Jewish girl is not allowed to nurse an idolater's baby because she's just increasing more idolaters in the world. Tanar Rabbanan. Also, I want to say that these halachos are not applicable today, talking about specific types of idolaters who are murderers. So we can't just say it in general. Yeah, it's very careful. And in most cases, they're not applicable. So the Gemara says, "Bas Charlotanik, Tanarabanan Bas Charlotanik, Benashal Avodas Kochavim, Nation Megadelis Ben Avodas Kochavim." He says a Jewish girl cannot nurse an idolater because you're raising another child for idolatry. Avodas Kochavim Lotanik is Benashal Bas Charlotanik, Neshach Shuda Shlichos Tam Divrei Meir. And Meir says that an idolater cannot, and a Jewish girl cannot nurse an idolater's baby because you're raising another baby for idolatry. An idolater cannot nurse a Jewish girl's baby because we suspect her of murder. That's the position of Rabbi Meir. It's interesting that Betzal, we were studying the Daf Yomi last night, and Betzal came on and he said that Agos Hasheri, the 14th century authority, that Achar became a heretic, Elisha ben Avua, because he nursed from an idolater. But it's interesting that Rameir was a student of Acher, and he says it's not allowed to do because of murder. Allow it, the nursing, if there's another person standing there to protect the baby. Even if there is another person standing there, it's also not okay. Why? But sometimes she'll put some poison on her breast and she'll kill the baby and you won't even recognize. So why do we need this halacha to be taught both by a midwife and also by a nurse? So the Gemara says, we need both teachings. If we just had the case by a midwife, that's where the Rabbanan say it's allowed to all afshar. Because she's not allowed to kill because other people see the baby, other people see her actions, and she won't be able to kill the baby. But if it's a nursing, after the shaifui sam where there maybe she can kill the baby surreptitiously through some poison on her breast. Maybe the rabbis would admit to Rabbi Meir. Yes, mina menika, and if we just had a case of a nursing mother. Rabbi Meir does, or maybe in that case, Rabbi Meir says it's prohibited. Mishum the shaifui sam ladad me'avrai, the couple because she could kill him. It's less likely to be able to kill somebody just by giving birth. So we need both cases. So the Gemara asks a question. The Gemara says we learned in the Mishnah that a Jewish girl is not allowed to give birth to an idolater's baby because she's raising another baby for idolatry. We have a problem with this Mishnah and a Brisa, because what does the Brisa say? And if the Jew is getting paid, if the Jewess is getting paid, she's able to help deliver the baby because she's getting paid, but not for free. So she's not allowed to do it if for free, but if she's getting paid, she's permitted. We'll see why. Rav Yosef says, she's getting paid mishum eva, because otherwise it's going to be causing hatred. Because you're saying, here, listen, you have a sign up that you accept you do deliveries, $500 a baby, and I'm willing to pay, and you're not taking it. It's going to cause a lot of fights. So you have to do it. You have business. You're open. Yeah, you can't turn away a customer. So that's why Mishum Eva, hatred, it's allowed. And so our Mishnah is talking about when it says you can't do it, that's for free. And the bridesman says you can do it, that's if you're being paid. So Rav Yosef Umeimar, Rav Yosef thought to say, Ulude Uvodes Kochavim, the Shabbos B'schar Shari Mishum Eva. Rav Yosef even wanted to go further. He said it's even permitted on Shabbos because if you're being paid even on Shabbos, she would be allowed to do it. So I'm because delivering birth to a baby on Shabbos is biblical prohibition. So I'm Abaya, no, Yachol Emar, on Shabbos she could get out of it because she could say the done the Mitri Shabbos on the Chalin that we're allowed to violate the Shabbos for our wives because they guard the Shabbos. But for you, the Dachadol Mitri Shabbos but you don't keep the Shabbos. We're not allowed to violate the Shabbos on your behalf. So, what's the reason why, in general, we're allowed to violate the Shabbos? There's a couple of reasons why, but the Gemara elsewhere says that what's the reason why we can violate a Shabbos to save some life, so that you could keep many other Shabbosos. So, if the person is not keeping Shabbos, if there's an idolater, then you can make that argument. That's what Abaye says. Rav Yosef Rav Yosef also thought to say, just like you can give birth to a baby if you're being paid. Also, you can nurse the baby if you're being paid, because otherwise it'll cause hatred. No, she could say, Abaye says, no, we can't extend it from giving birth to nursing, because she could claim, if she was unmarried, she could say, but in Suvi, I want to get married, and it's not a good look for me to go around nursing. People will think it doesn't look good, or else maybe there is also the Gemara elsewhere says when you're nursing, you can't get pregnant. So therefore, she can get out of it. And Ishis Ishi, and if she's a married woman, welcome is Damna Ba'ape Gabra. Her husband is not going to appreciate the fact that she's a nurse. Her husband doesn't want her to be nursing other people's babies. She says, I don't want to look bad in front of my husband. And so therefore, she could get out of it. It's less of a draw to be a nurse than it is to be a midwife. So you have a teaching that says in the Brisa that there was an idolater or a shepherd who's Jewish. You're not allowed to raise them up from the pit, but you're not allowed to throw them into pit. Meaning to say the idolaters were terrible people, so you weren't allowed to kill them, but you weren't allowed to save them. And the Jewish shepherds, these were people who were thieves. So Rav Yosef thought to qualify that, and he said, "Asuke b'schar shari," that if they want to tell you, come ahead and take my friend, be a rescue operator, and so in exchange for payment, you'd be allowed to do it, mishum eva, because otherwise, let's say you're first responders and they say, no, I'm not going to get that guy out, he's an idolater, it's going to cause a war. So I'm going to say, no, you can get out of it. You can make your excuse. You can say, oh, no, I would go, but I have to save my son. He's on the roof, or else I have to go to court. I have a jury duty. The ruler ordered me to appear this day, and if I don't go, I'm going to lose a lot. So you could get out of it. Tani Rabbi Avo, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, so now we're going to analyze this price, very controversial price. Just say the Chazon Ish says doesn't apply anymore, because all of this, when we say that this person, you don't save a Jewish shepherd or an idolater, that's because it was written at a time when the miracles of God were manifest in the world. You can imagine you standing at Har Sinai or Kriyas Yamsuf, and a person says, oh, I'm still going to be an idolater. He sees the splitting of the sea, and his reaction is to be an idolater. Such a person you don't have to save. Nowadays, where God's ways are not manifest, the Chazon Ish says we have to grab everybody in with ropes of love. It's interesting, the Chazon Ish was very close with the heretic, or quote-unquote heretic, but the person who left the yeshiva of Chaim Grade. Chaim Grad, an author. He's known for having left the traditional yeshiva, but he remained close to the Chazon Ish. And so the Chazon Ish, even though he's known as the posek of the Haredi world, he has this very loving attitude towards people who left. And he basically says this Gemara is not applicable anymore. So it says,
Consider the golden path.
yeah, the idolaters. Well, it's a whole nother story. We're not going to go down that road at this exact moment, but we can analyze it again. So anyway, the Gemara says, "Over the but if there's a min, Rashi says these are priests for idolatry, whether they're Jews or idolaters, could have been in early manuscripts Christian. Masuros, these are people who lied, Rashi says, and they it's not a question, there's a whole controversy here. But these are people who hand people over to the authorities. There is a word added into Rashi that says, there's a word there that says, who lied about it. They handed people over lying. There's a question whether that's a text. So is the prohibition to hand anybody over to authorities, or only if you do it when it's not true? Anyway, Va'amumrim, and the Mumrim, these are people who are sinners, Jewish sinners. Moridim Wamalan, we throw them in the pit, we don't take them up. Amar he said, so that's what Rabbi Avodah said in front of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan responded, Ani shoneh I say that the verse says you have to return all the lost items to your brother, to include even a mummer. And you say you could throw a mummer into the pit? Mummer. No, remove the mummer from this text. Mar says, "Volitionally, why didn't Rabbi Avo respond? It depends why you're a mummer. If you're a mummer with te'avon, then you don't throw him in. But if you're a mummer with achis, you throw him in. What's the te'avon? Te'avon is you eat the cheeseburger because you have an appetite for a cheeseburger and you can't help yourself. But you're weak, but you don't want to do it. But achis is you just say these laws are stupid and I want to show that I know better. That's lahachas. You're like audacious, brazen. Why don't we just draw that distinction? So the Gemara says no. Rabbi Avo didn't want to give that distinction because kasavar ochel nevelos lahachas minhu. He thought that when it says min in the text, that's one who eats the nevela, the non-kosher meat lahachis, and so the mummer is l'te'avo. Itmar, so we learned mumar. What about a mumar? That if you eat l'te'avo, just because you have an appetite, that's a mumar. Lahachis is a midhab. No, even if you do it intentionally, nami mumar. So if that's the case, min, according to the other one, what is the min? Avodah Zarah. This is one who worships idolatry. So Gemara challenges this idea that one who eats the non-kosher food lahachis is called a min. But it says achol parosh echad or yitush echad. Let's say eat a gnat or a flea, then we're going to say such a person harei the mumar. So we see, even though you can't be eating it with te'avo, nobody likes the way the fleas taste or the gnats taste, and yet we still call you a mumar. So we see from here, even though he's doing lahachas, it's called a mumar. Mumar says no. Yeah, he doesn't like the way it tastes, but he wants to taste on it. He has a desire for the taste, just to see how it tastes. So he's not a lahachas. People have a craziness to try new things. Maybe got on Fear Factor, the show when I was Hobbs' age, that people would give you $1 million to eat a live rat or something, stuff like that. So the Gemara says, Amar Mar, Moridin Avoloma. And so these people who are Min and Moser and Mummer, we throw them down, but we don't take them up from the pit. Moridin Avoloma. So the Gemara says, we said you could throw them down. They have to say that you don't pick them up. We just said you throw them into the pit. Now, why do we need this case? so why do we need this case to teach us? She'imai samala babor megara the nakit. So he says, no, it's to tell us that if there was basically like a ladder made out of like rocks in the pit, and it could go on it and get out, then megara, that basically you scrape away the earth and you take away the steps. The nakalewa. So basically, and he gives him a reason why he's doing it. I'm doing this so that my animal doesn't fall down. Meaning to say that you're allowed to do this in a way that the person doesn't realize that you're trying to kill him. And so that's how you do it. So Tosfos asks the question, I don't understand, why does the Jew need to give an excuse? He's even allowed to throw him in. So Tosfos says, we're talking about, when it says Moridin, that's when the Jews were in charge. And when it says Lomalin, that means to say when the Jews are not really in charge. But nevertheless, you could still trick him into killing him. Okay, lovely. So then the Gemara says, Rav Yossi Tamar Travayo. No, when it's I'm talking about a different circumstance. Shem Haisa Evan al Piaber. Let's say there was a stone there, Mechatza. You could cover it, and you could come up with an excuse. You say, Lavure Chayusa Lavei. No, I'm just doing it. I'm just covering it temporarily so my animal will be able to walk over it. Then I'll come back and get you. Ravina Amar Shemaya Sulam Mistalko. That if there's a ladder there, you can remove it. And he'll say, Amar Baina Achute Bari Meyagra. I need to get my son down from the roof. Son Israel, Malas Ha'ole Kochavim was Shumger, that you're allowed to circumcise an idolater to convert him. Fuke was Shumurna Duo. But if you're going to just try to do a surgery to remove his orla, which was dangerous, that's not allowed. But an idolater is never allowed to circumcise a Jew because we're worried he's going to kill you. Some say the idolater can circumcise the Jew. If there's another Jew standing there to watch and make sure he doesn't do it. But between the two of them, if it's just two of them, he can't do it. Rameir says even if somebody's standing next to him, you also can't do it. Why? Because sometimes he'll basically be able to twist the knife and sever the guy's genitalia and make him unable to have children. So we don't trust him. What does Rameir say that really an idolater is not able to circumcise a Jew? But didn't we learn here? Let's say there's a city that doesn't have a Jewish doctor, but has a Kuti doctor, and so you have a choice. You can go to the Kuti doctor, or you can go to the idolatrous doctor. Who do you go to for the circumcision? Who do you go to? Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi Meir says, go to the idolater, because the Kuti is a heretic. So if he circumcised you, he's circumcising you for the purpose of idolatry. Whereas the idolater, he doesn't do circumcision. So he's not circumcising you for the purpose of circumcision. Because they don't circumcise. He's just doing the procedure. So the Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yimol Kuti V'Yimol Over Kochavim. Rabbi Yehuda says that the Kuti should do it because he's worried about murder. So we see from here that Rameir is not worried about the murder of the idolater. So how come in the earlier source we said he is? So the Gemara says Eipoch. Rameir Omer Yimol Kuti V'Over Kochavim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Over Kochavim Kuti. So we reverse the positions. Okay, we'll stop here, and going to go back and forth on that, but that's today's daf. Again, none of this is relevant today because, in the strict sense of the law, because the idolaters today are different than those idolaters in the sense that those people were trying to kill us, and also because we have the Chazonish's position that about people who are not keeping Shabbos, that it's a different type of world in which we live in today than when we lived in then. All right, we'll stop here.